Good evening. Welcome to Conscious Gatherers. My name is Beverly Thompson. I'm here with AJ Royce, and we have a great show, or I think a great discussion that we're going to lead into. And today's date is January the 25th, 2022. And this is our third season, and this is episode 60. So, it's a big number. What did you call number 6?
As a mastery.
Mastery. So, and that's where we're going in this whole plan, and we're going to discuss that in a moment. But it's mastery. It's us, guys. It's all of us. And it's really for us to start realizing that in everything that we do, everything that we say, and to really realize it. And then sometimes we may get caught off guard, whatever that means. It's like, why do we even have to be on guard? So, all of these words and things, phrases that we have used makes us think about, what programs have I bought into? So anyway, but welcome everybody.
Hello.
All right. Well, as many of you have listened to in previous podcasts, that Royce and I get together on Tuesdays and come up with some things to talk about, or not. But it's usually some interesting things come forth, and so we'll share some of that tonight. So Royce, jump in whenever you want. And
Okay.
If we have any live listeners, I don't think we do yet. But if we do, then those that are listening to the podcast and decide to come on live, then feel free to speak when we open up the mics for you to do so. If you are going to listen live also, if you would mute your phones, that would be very helpful. And then unmute them when you're ready to speak and when we ask. So thank you. Well, we're going to start into this tonight. And some of the words that I received earlier today is, I'm going to give this one out because I'm like, what? So, and that is the phrase, all is in place for a soft landing. Well, I guess it does make sense.
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah, after saying it a few times, it's like, okay, yeah, everything is ongoing. And we have this plan out there. And who brought this plan into fruition? And that's we all did. Or because we're all part of the one, right? We're all part of creator source, or whatever term you want to use for God, or, and a lot of people like to separate that and get a little bit nervous about, saying, what do you mean we're not separate? It's like, no, we're all part of the one. So that's what that means. We're all part of Creator, and so we are wonderful creators. All right, and here's some of the things that I did get a little bit earlier, and that is, said, in ages past, we agreed to this project. And the project is, I call it the Ascension Project, Transformation Project, whatever word, but we're rising in our frequency. So this is what we talked about since our first podcast. Well, almost 3 years ago. It could have been 3 years ago. So, we're ongoing. Anyway, we agreed to this project to move certain ones, that means people or whatever, into place so that this could be implemented, so this project could be implemented. And so the strategic planning has taken many years, and that's using linearity. Even though everything happens simultaneously, and it's weird. Excuse me. Pardon me. All right. Okay. It's taken many years to come to this point, and Earth's frequency needed to line up to this transformation, and so we're tied into this Earth, and so that frequency is us too. So do remember that, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more during this podcast. Remember, each of us has stepped in to hold the energetic frequency to stay in place for this implementation. So, another way of saying what I just said. Anyway, But we are, this is along with other forces. Nothing can stop this plan. Remember that. Nothing can stop this plan. That means there's no need to be in the fear. And there's an awful lot of fear mongering going on. So nothing can stop this. We're moving ahead. We're forging ahead. We're moving into this new earth. And it's happening. And that's why, again, why there's so much chaos in the world, because there are certain forces out there that don't want us to and understand what we hold within our biology and our consciousness. So it's pretty amazing when you start looking at each and every one of us. And nobody is better than or less than another. Do remember that. So there's no judgment, no comparison. That all goes in ego, and ego is edging its way out. EGO, edging God out. The way a lot of people do say ego, but remember, it's not the master. It's there to assist with us. So that's just part of our makeup of beingness in the physical form. So now, many ones, remember that many ones we have all chose to be here. And then some people are choosing to leave this earth plane. That is going on. And we are going to see some deaths. Now, that does not mean for anybody to go into fear. Just be aware of it. And let them go if that's what they need to do. All right. And then other of us, remember, we have a lot of courage. And it takes a lot of courage to play this whole thing out. And what's the words I got the other day? A game is playing itself out. It's a game playing out. Words I may call this podcast that. But it's exactly what's happening. It's like, it's a game. This is not a fun game. But whatever you want to call it. But I think as we raise in our consciousness and into the new world, we may go shoo, or shoo, or whatever words, and we did it. And then it's, the jubilation it's going to be enormous, because it's like, wow, we really did do it. And we'll be high-fiving everybody. So anyway, but remember that we are the gods and the goddesses of the earth, Gaia or Terra, whatever you want to call this earth. But the Gaia or Terra, term, as I said, I think in the last episode, is that Gaia that's what I call our earth. And some people are starting to call it Terra, or New Terra, or Nuevo Terra, Nova Terra. There's different words out there. But anyway, we're working together to assist in this great big project that we're undergoing. And but as I said, there's nothing's going to stop this plan. And this big plan is underway, and that is to bring humanity of Earth into harmony with other sentient beings throughout the worlds. That's the dimensional worlds based in love. It is God, it is love, one and the same. So humanity has been in a bubble of deceit and misinformation for many years. And you're like, what are you talking about? And one thing Royce and I were talking about today were the good old days. And are they really that good? Or were we shackled, or because I've used that word as a podcast, or were we being lied to? And I think we're finding out a lot of things, programs that we're being lied to, and the programs keep coming up and up and up. Like, wow, I bought into that. Yeah. And
ignorance is just that. It's mindless of what program you're in. You're ignorant to it. So once you wake up to the fact of what's been going on, if you keep going according to that plan, then you're stupid.
Well, okay. All right. Okay. If that plan no longer serves you, or that old program no longer serves you.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of those programs no longer serve us, because as we're moving into the higher dimensions of frequencies, whatever terminology you want to use, most of those programs, they're defunct.
Yeah.
Or becoming defunct.
Yeah.
It's like, what am I doing that for? Do I need to work 20-hour days to get ahead? I mean, that's been a program,
Yeah.
and I've bought into that. It's like, okay, if I don't work, so many hours, then man, am I doing my part? And it's like putting in the time or making brownie points.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to do this and this and this, so I can get into heaven. I was thinking about that. Thinking about that yesterday. Brownie points to get into heaven. So what is heaven? So, is heaven a place or is it a state of being?
Yeah.
So if it's a state of being, then it becomes a place because that's where you're living from.
Yeah.
So what are we doing? Bringing heaven on earth. So it's just a new way of living, and it's going to be so joyous. So do remember that. So, there's our future you. We've talked about future us coming back and emerging timelines or crisscrossing timelines, all of that. And so I just want to touch upon that because of what people are going through. And memories are popping up, more memories are popping up of other lives. And how does that serve us in this life? And so you start seeing the connections. And again, we talked about this in other podcasts, but it keeps happening. And I'm seeing a lot of this timeline stuff in the last like a week or week and a half from other podcasts, which I listen to. And I like to hear what other people have to say so I can learn. Or not. If you don't want to, that's fine. So I'm one that does. And then sometimes I wonder what the heck they said and talked about. So obviously I wasn't listening very well. But
or maybe it just wasn't for you.
It wasn't for me. And then you go on. It's like, okay, it's like if I wasn't interested enough to sit down and listen to it, then it's like, okay, what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, turn off the computer.
Discerning moments.
Exactly. But, just thinking about the future you. So a lot of us have been in the future in years. I mean, I've heard a lot of things that, it'd be 2,000 years or more if we want to look at linearity, or it could be more. I really don't know. And each of us is different. However, just remember that we're here, we're back, or whatever, to adjust our thoughts. So in other words, what I mentioned a few minutes ago is to really learn more about ourselves and how we can move this plan along because we plan this plan. Does that make sense? All right. But remember, those thoughts that are outside the heart, and that's that feeling that we have because we have such an emotional body, but we're joining our heart and mind complex in a more cohesive manner. So anyway, so what's happening? And we're learning more about humanity, what's been perpetuated upon humanity. And we're definitely seeing that because of the protests that are out there right now. And some people are saying no more.
And it's all a part of our progression into the next phase of what humanity is to become, because this isn't it.
Yeah.
We've got good things in store.
We do.
We are evolving.
Definitely. And so, if you want to comply to some of the mandates going on, that's up to you. But there are many people that saying, no more. Enough's enough. I hear that over and over again. Enough is enough. And people are saying, let's get on with it. However, and I'm speaking to myself as well as to all of you, is like, remember, it starts with each one of us.
Mm-hmm.
And, if it starts with each one of us, what does that really mean? And that is really working with the heart. Now, what does that mean? Do you have any words for that one?
You picked the thing that I didn't really have a comment for.
Okay, what feels comfortable for you? what feels in your best interest. And that might be something that you need for that day, or it may be something that you want to take with you for the rest of your life. And so it's really what serves you for your highest good. And it may not be anything physical. It may be, just understanding the love that is available within you.
And it may be just unplugging, because we're so plugged in to everybody and everything and all these different technologies and blah, 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 that it becomes a bit overwhelming, and we lose place with what's going on in our own selves. So sometimes we just need to unplug and get reacquainted with who we are, learning ourselves, so that we can discern. Because if you don't know yourself, you can't discern.
Yeah. And that's responsibility for yourself.
Yes.
And you don't, it's nice to get, what's the word? From somebody else that's getting some similar information. And so that's always nice. But you'll know it when you've got it in your heart. It's that knowingness.
Yeah.
And some people say, how do I know it? You will. You just know it.
Yeah, and people will feel it differently. They'll sense it differently. Everybody will. If you can't even grasp what it means to discern, then think back over your life and think about things that perhaps went askew, but you knew it, that it wasn't right to begin with. So investigate that, go deep into it, and figure out what it was within you that knew what that trigger was. You may have gotten a feeling deep in your gut, like somebody punched you. You may have gotten an eye twitching, or you got a headache, or you just felt bad, or your stomach just dropped out. It could be any number of things, but learn what that is for yourself by looking over what's happened in the past. And then you'll know what that cue is, that thing that lets you know that, wait a minute, I need to put some more thought into this before I go further. I need to discern whether this is for me or not.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Pay attention. That's a big thing. Pay attention. Observe. Observe yourself, and you can observe others too. That's not judgment.
No.
That's just observance.
Yes, and that brings up something. I'm just going to go ahead and jump into this, if that's okay.
Oh, please.
Bev had mentioned at the end of the last podcast that we might be discussing extraterrestrial, and that is a very big subject, and I can only speak from what I've experienced myself, that extraterrestrials, off-worlders, whatever you want to call them, are not all alike. You look at the planet Earth, we've got billions of different types of people. We're not all alike, and neither are they. And not everyone out there is going to have your best interest at heart. And some of them only have your best interest at heart. And so you need to hone in on your discernment, so that when these beings start approaching in a more overt way, that you'll be able to discern what your next step's going to be, how you're going to proceed with these visitations. Because I can tell you right now that we are not alone in this universe. We never have been. And it's going to become very, very obvious So hone in on your discernment so you know what you want around you and what you don't.
Mm-hmm. You just said, we're not the only ones in this universe. We're not the only ones on this earth.
That's right.
At all. And there's lots of different beings on this earth, and a lot of them live underground.
That's right.
And we hear a lot about Antarctica.
Right under our noses.
And a lot of them are right here. Yeah. So, and they're not all going to look like us. However, the ones that really have we're working together with, you'll feel their genuine love.
Yes, definitely.
And and so you'll appreciate their courage and forthrightness that they have along with yourself. There are some beings that may, dingle a carrot, so to speak, and offer you all kinds of wonderful things, and they may say all the wonderful words, but something doesn't quite feel right.
Pay attention to that.
Pay attention, because that is going on. And even though a lot of these beings are no longer on this earth, but there's still a faction here. And so just like Roy said, there's all different kinds of beings in space and on this earth, as there are humans. And everybody has their own mission, if you want to call it such. I was going to say personality. But, they have their character. Thank you. That's probably a better way of saying it. However, pardon me, some of the beings that I mentioned before, if nothing can stop this plan, those beings are that force. They're working with us.
That's right.
And we are them too. Some of us are. We work together, and so we're going to have absolutely incredible technologies, and we'll realize those technologies built into the human form. We've talked about our 12 strands of DNA, and most of us have 2 strands, and kids are coming in with 3, 4, 5, or 6 strands activated. And I think our third, many of us, it's coming in right now, so I'm getting this information. Many of us have our third strand that is starting to vibrate, and the fourth one is just going to turn on quickly. And so there'll be 2 double strands. Wow. Okay. Wasn't expecting that, but that just came in, so I want to share that. But as Roy said, use discernment. So, all right. I think we do have somebody with us. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask at this point? All right. Nobody's coming forth. That's fine. I'm going to share this, and because today I was, it was like, and this I using my third eye and visions, visions with my eyes wide open, and it's like I could see, it's like looking into the sky, for instance, and it was like a wedge, like an opening, and I was like, whoa, okay, but it was only light coming through. And it was like almost blue sky-like, but it's still white, nothing dark. And I think more like a wedge. I mentioned wedge, more like a triangle type shape. And I was realizing that it's also connected to our military. And so there's some of our military that are working with these higher dimensional beings. Mm-hmm. And the Galactic Federation comes up often, or the Federation, Galactic Federation of Worlds, I think, is the terminology that's been used, and that may include beings from lots of different planets, such as Sirius and Pleiades. Pleiades has been a big part of the Earth, which most of us know. Arcturus and Andromeda. Oh, my smoke alarm just went off. So if that happens again, you'll know what that is. But I was seeing that basically, I call it Back to the Future. And this project, again, is in place, and there has been threats, but that threat has been blocked. So those things are happening, but they are being blocked. And again, the more we can raise our frequency, we're not going to have that problem. Okay, I think we need a new battery. So anyway, I don't think the smoke alarms will go off, but we'll figure out where it's coming from if you're hearing it through this microphone. But anyway, again, anybody have any questions? One thing I'm just talking about our military working with some of the ET, our brothers and sisters of the stars, some here on Earth, some not. The term white hats and black hats has been thrown out a lot lately, and just realize there is some infiltration in both ways, and that everybody's playing their part, but do use discernment. Oh, okay. So just keep that in mind. The other thing that was coming up is with all the podcasts that are out there that, from what I'm hearing, get a lot more views than mainstream media. and so people want to know the truth. But remember, you can discern it yourself. And sometimes I'm fooled. It's like, huh? What? But what I want to bring up is that there's a lot of people that are very addicted to it, and then they get confused. And this is the people in the truth or in spiritual communities, and they have intertwined. And so, just be aware of being so addicted to it. Like, I want to know what that means. I want to know what's going on. But it's really going within yourself to figure that out. And so, that's looking outside of ourselves. And then we get into the victim consciousness. And when you do that, you're lowering your frequency. So be aware when you do that. I've caught myself doing it.
Yeah,
And then I thought, what am I doing?
Yeah, keep yourself in a proactive mode. If you feel yourself going down that slippery slope, if you need to, call out for help. It's like I got caught up in something earlier this week, and I had to call on Bev, and I was very grateful to have her help. So reach out.
Talked about that at the last podcast, but if you need assistance, ask. People want to help.
Yeah.
And the people listening to this podcast, you're the ones that are going to be helping. You're learning, you're discerning, and you are assisting others because we're all going through this. And some people are having a really hard time. And mentioned that we've been into this photon belt and that higher energy. And some people are not taking it well. Then you got the turn on of the 5G, and that's affecting people too. My understanding that eventually will go away. We'll be in a whole nother system that will not adversely affect the body, the EMF radiation, that sort of thing. I'm really not going to get into that because it's not my forte, but it does affect people, and especially Royce over here that's been greatly affected by it all.
Yeah, because I audibly hear the signals from the communications towers, and it's pretty unnerving at times. I have to acclimate myself because they turn it on in spurts by levels, and wow.
I turn it up. Yeah, even the Ring doorbells will affect her.
Yeah,
and she can hear that. And so other people can hear that too. Remember, our animals can hear that.
Yes.
And so that could be a little hard on them. Mm-hmm. So just keep that in mind. We have all these electronic devices, and yeah, we're getting it. But eventually this will go away. And so do remember that, so we don't get caught up into the victim consciousness. But she realizes there, and we can use our own bodies and our own. I call it protection around the body, where that's not going to hurt or affect the body as much as if we didn't do anything. So we
Yeah.
do have those capabilities. But one thing is remember to be true to yourself, and that's knowing. Know thyself. And so you don't really need anybody else's approval. You need your own approval.
That's right.
So, all right. All right. Well, that's pretty much the podcast. Do you have any more to say and add?
I don't think so.
It's pretty heavy duty of everything that's going on right now, if you want to call it heavy, but it doesn't have to be heavy duty. And if you feel that heaviness, take a walk, get out in nature. That changes everything. Look at, I don't know how many times I've said this, but take a look at the trees, take a look at the plants and the intricacies, and you can get almost lost in the beauty of each of those. And it pulls you out of that old, it's like the world events.
And realize that the things that you're looking at are filled with consciousness.
Yeah.
They are aware that they're being looked at. Like my plants, oh man, sometimes I just have to hold hands with them. Earlier this week, there were some trees out in the front yard, and they were just I could feel their yearning to be touched. And so I came over and put my hands on them and just spent time touching them and feeling the life force. Even though at this time of year it's very weak, but you can still perceive it. It's a marvelous thing to realize how much life there is in the things that we so take for granted. And the animals, oh my goodness gracious, they're just filled with awareness. Please don't take the animals for granted. They are precious beings.
Yes, they are. And they're helping the humans.
Yes.
Along with this changes that we are making. And a lot of them may get really very close to the human, and they can tell when you're in distress, and they're to assist. And let them, just love them, give them gratitude. So, all right. Well, thank you very much. Any questions before we sign off? Okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining us this evening, and I think we do have some exciting weeks and days in front of us, and I do think on the so-called outside world that we're going to see some changes. But remember, those changes on the outside, what we could term the outside world, are really our inside world, because it's all within us. Remember that we are the master. Love yourself. Look in the mirror, and you just tell yourself, "I love you," and say it with force. And you're beautiful.
Absolutely. And so I guess that brings us to a time when I usually give a little something from my heart, and I just want all of you to know how much I truly appreciate you being here. And I think that each one of us holds such deep and awesome beauty within us, and just feel like you can let it out. Share your beauty with all that surrounds you. And thank you for staying this long. I hope you stay longer, because there's so much more to be done. And I love you.
Thank you. Always beautiful and very heartfelt. So thank you, Royce. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us this evening. And we'll be back in 2 weeks. Not sure of the date. So, okay, didn't look that up ahead of time. But anyways, it will be in the month of February. I believe it'll be on the 8th of February. So we'll be back, and I think see what happens in this world. But remember, it starts within our hearts. It starts with us. And you're all incredible, and believe it, know it. And this world will change so quickly when we all know that. So thank you all, and good night.
Good night.